pumpkin stems, I don't want to say are an order of huge contention because they're not, but there's a lot of variety that you can get with them. You can go for something very, very complicated, like this stem, which is a lot of little tiny twists and turns. But really, a pumpkin stem, in actuality, and here I have one saved, is a really, really simple mechanism. It doesn't go for huge, crazy twists and turns, though you can put them in there if you want. But I'm just going to do this for a simple first pumpkin. One of your easiest options is to save pumpkin stems and then just glue them onto these and spray them over with some shellac or hardener so they don't rot out completely. But we're going to assume that we're going to build one. The easiest thing to build one that gives you both a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of variability for the core is aluminum foil. And what I like to do is just grab a chunk, and maybe give it a fold or so I don't have to deal with as much material. Decide how big I want the stem. I mean, that should be pretty good size. And then I'm just going to twist this thing up and compact it pretty well into a foil stalk. If you have the equipment, one of the best things to do is to grab a Dremel or drill or something and give yourself a tiny little hole right here at the top where you're going to put your stem. I'm going to assume that you're in a spot with no power tools, no equipment, nothing. So I'm going to quickly go off script here and try to put a tiny little hole in there with just this little pocket knife multi-tool. If you can't put a hole in it at all, it's not the end of the world either. How big you want this hole to be kind of depends on how creative you want to get with your stem. For your first pumpkin, I don't recommend anything more than just a standing up stem. That's all you need. Save the crazy fancy stuff for your second or third pumpkin if you decide you want to make any more. But, you know, just got a little hole there. No problem. I'm not quite all the way through, so I'll finish that up. The hole for this pumpkin is about 3/4 of an inch slash about 15 millimeters. So there we go. And you're going to take your stem bit and stuff it in the hole. If it doesn't fit, maybe you made your stem too small or your hole too big and they don't lock well, just grab some more foil. Give yourself a little bit extra and rewrap the base and build it up until you have enough so that it fits into the stem hole. Mine, fortunately, is in pretty good shape, but if yours isn't, that's what you can do to build it up. You can also build up your whole stem. Incidentally, measurement-wise, this stem is maybe 1/2 inch wide slash 1.12 millimeters. And all I'm going to be using the aluminum foil for is just a core support. If you have a hot glue gun, I do recommend hot gluing this into place. So just dump a little hot glue in there and then plonk your stem in. If you've got a hot glue gun, then find where that stem is on the other side, angle your pumpkin up, and drip some hot glue down onto it. I, however, am going to pretend I don't have a hot glue gun. But I am just Joe Everybody who has minimal crafting supplies, and I can't afford that fancy garbage. So I'm just going to give my stem a little bit of a placement. grab some paper clay. First things I'm going to do is find out where it is on the bottom. And I'm going to just put a wad of paper clay onto and around that spot. Not so much to hold the stem in place, or not so much to cover it for any particular reason, but more to hold the stem in place. Make sure it doesn't wiggle. My stem is maybe poked through about 3/4 of an inch / 15, 16 millimeters on the bottom of this thing. I'm just going to coat on and around it. Hopefully that's got enough light to see down in. If not, I'll try to superimpose a picture later on. But that stem is covered and it's stabilized, so it really can't wiggle. Next step is going to be to just coat this aluminum foil in a thin layer of paper clay. I'm going to take it all the way down to the base. I have like maybe a 2 millimeter / 1/16 / 1/8 of an inch coating. Around the bottom, I'm going to try to make sure that it interfaces with the paper clay that's already there. Just give it a little press down all around. Since I'm doing this with no hot glue, I want to make sure it all becomes one solid structure. So all around the base, I'm just a tad thicker. And otherwise, we're just going to give this a coat. Further you get away from the root, obviously, the more wobbly your stem is going to get. You can make a thicker piece of aluminum if you want to get more creative with it and not feel that it's quite so wobbly. But I'm going for first time, minimal materials needed. I'm also doing my stem fairly straight up for the most part, because the more they curl down, the harder it is to do any kind of sculpting of a stem underneath them, and the harder it is to paint underneath them. So a small stem, mostly straight up, is ideal for your first time. And that stem's completely covered, and because I've been finger pushing it down, it's pretty smooth. And now I'm just going to make sure that the stem is blending into any existing grooves by giving it just a tiny little finger down push. And then you've got a choice to make. You can start doing a little bit of the stem sculpting now, in which case you're probably going to want to have some smoothing paste ready and handy at hand. But with the degree of wobble on this thing, I'm just going to let this one sit overnight and have it be a-okay. So next time I work on it, this stem is going to be just as hard as this internal pumpkin material. I am, however, during this juncture, going to add some clay to the bottom front here, where this guy is, you know, use a little bit more fill in. All right, I'm going to set this guy up to dry. Because again, although I could start shaping the stem a little bit more, I don't want to take any kind of chances. It's not worth it. I'd rather come back to it when it's as rigid as the outer form. And with that, we'll fast forward another day for drying and get back to it next time.